Hey loves, it's Brianna. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I wanted to go over the things I wish I would have known before I got pregnant. So if you're new here, I'm a mom of 3 and I've shared my last 2 pregnancies on YouTube, and a lot of you have been along for my motherhood journey here. So just thank you for subscribing and tagging along. But I was talking to some friends recently just about how it's kind of strange when you close that chapter of your life of having babies. And they were like, well, looking back on it, what do you wish you would have known before you were pregnant or before you had kids? And I was like, that's a great video idea. So I have 17 things that I put in the notes on my phone when I was reflecting on it over the last week to share with you today. And our community is so great at helping and supporting. So be sure to leave any questions or advice that you have down in the comments below, because I know that other community members are going to love to hear from you too. All right, so let's get started. The number one thing I wish I would have known before I had kids was you're probably going to pee your pants. There's this thing called stress incontinence. I'm not kidding you. It affects 1 out of 3 pregnant women. And if you are pregnant a second or a third time, that goes up to 75% of pregnant women experience leaks or incontinence. And just in general, I feel like this is something that women, it's so taboo to talk about, but I guess I'm just one of those people that's like, I will tell you my story. I was driving home from work with Landon, and I was probably like 8 months pregnant and had been a really long day of interviews, and I wasn't by my normal office, and I was just like, I just want to hop in the car and get home. And as soon as I got in the car, I was like, I have to pee so bad. Like I had to pee so bad. But I was like, I don't live that far. I think I can make it. So I was speeding to get home, and a cop pulled me over. And he just took his good old time pulling me over, and sure enough, I ended up peeing my pants while waiting for him there, pulled over on the side of the road. It was so embarrassing. And at the time, you feel very alone when those kind of things happen to you. But then when I learned about this and the fact that, oh, this happens in 1 of 3 pregnancies when people are first pregnant, and that was my first baby, maybe I wouldn't have felt so alone, or maybe I would have known that there was actually a solution for me to prevent what happened to me. So that is why I wanted to share Fit Right Fresh Start with you guys. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's video, but this is something that so many women could benefit from. These are disposable underwear. They come in black, they come in multiple other colors too, but I got the black ones just so that they're very discreet looking and look like regular underwear underneath your clothes. What I love about these though is because they're made with baking soda, they have even better odor protection than any of the other disposable underwear brands out there. They hold up to 5 cups of liquid. So, you might think, oh, I can just wear a regular pad or panty liner. No, you can't. If you're experiencing like what I experienced during pregnancy, you need these. Especially a lot of women go through this then postpartum as well, just because your pelvic floor hasn't gone back to normal yet. And I know a lot of women in my family who've gone through menopause have said that there was incontinence associated when they were going through menopause as well. So the statistic is 80 million women in the US are experiencing incontinence, and it's like 2/3 of women experience incontinence over their lifetime. So again, you are not alone in this. We all at some point are looking for a solution to those problems, no matter what phase we are in womanhood or motherhood. And that's why I wanted to recommend these to you guys. I love too, they're really breathable and they're made with vitamin E. So, it just like helps protect one of those most delicate areas of skin on your body when you're going through that phase of your journey. So I'm going to have these Fit Right Fresh Start disposable underwear linked in my description box below. Use my link because you're going to get an Amazon discount of 20% off of these, which that's like so rare. So make sure you use the link so you get 20% off your Fit Right Fresh Start disposable underwear. And just know, you are not alone as you're going through this. I promise you, you are not alone. Number 2 on my list that I wish somebody had told me before I got pregnant and had kids was about pelvic floor exercises. This was not something my doctor discussed with me. It was not something my girlfriends were talking about, or even the YouTube videos that I was watching during pregnancy that I feel like helped me so much and just again made me feel less alone. I never heard about pelvic floor exercises and how important it is to be doing these to maintain the strength of your pelvic floor. And it just helps you so much in your postpartum recovery. So if you have not heard of them, look them up. There's tons of information out there, whether you Google it or search for it on YouTube, of different instructors who are going to show you exactly what you can do to keep your pelvic floor strong, which is so important, especially for pregnancy and postpartum. The third thing that nobody told me was that postpartum care and maternity leave is not any sort of a vacation or break. I feel like everyone in my office kind of acted like, oh, you're gonna get this vacation for 12 weeks, like lucky you. It is not a vacation, and 12 weeks is not nearly long enough. Like if you look at the US maternity leave and paternity leave in comparison to other countries, pretty much everybody else at this point is at a year. And if you are lucky in the US, just depending on how many people work at your workplace, if they qualify, it's 12 weeks not paid. So again, certain employers might offer better benefits, especially some people say they work for European companies, so maybe you get something better here. But my experience, which was like the best you could get at the time, was 12 weeks unpaid. And luckily some people who had like more sick days than they could possibly use before they retired, they did have a donation system to donate sick days to me so that I was able to get paid for some of the days of my maternity leave, which was so sweet. And that's where it just truly is this like takes a village mentality, right? I love that people will support moms and motherhood in whatever way that they can, but the US does have some catching up to do big time when it comes to maternity leave and how we treat our new mothers and new babies and new families here in the US for sure. Just something I hope long-term to be a big part of helping to change. Fourth thing I wish somebody had told me is that birth plans are nice, but nothing will probably go according to your birth plan. Especially if you've seen my labor and delivery video of Hayden. You know nothing in that delivery room was going according to plan, especially if you remember the screams. I think we're at like 17 million people have heard me screaming while giving birth at this point. So, you know, your birth plan, I mean, it's nice to have, and I think it's so great to really think about what kind of a birth you want. And I know so many women, you know, have elected to have, I have like friends who've done home births, right? Or have elected to have natural birthing centers. I think it's great to research and know all the options and, you know, choose the right place that you want to give birth for you, even though, you know, I also have girlfriends who've like had a baby in a car. So again, like you might come up with these plans and then that baby is just going to have its own way of how they want to make their entrance into the world. So do your research, but just, you know, don't feel disappointed if your birth plan or your birth experience doesn't meet your expectations. And I think that goes for a lot of things in life. It's like we have these grand expectations sometimes. I know as a perfectionist, I definitely am that way. And then we can be disappointed if it happens differently. That's kind of like the beauty and the magic of birth and pregnancy is there's going to be all these really unexpected, beautiful things. And I think birth is one of them, that it's almost better not to have like any high expectations around it, just kind of letting it be like how it's going to go is how it's going to go. That's the one thing that I'm like, as a planner and perfectionist, I like had these birth plans and, you know, they never went according to plan. Fifth thing I wish I knew before having kids is that breastfeeding is not natural and it was going to be really hard. I think because it's like you're doing it with your body, I just assumed, oh, I'm gonna like naturally know what to do and my baby is going to know what to do. And that's just not the case. I'm so grateful for the lactation consultants every time I gave birth who came in and really just like, I think gave me like almost a 101 all over again, because your baby, and depending on how like their mouth is, they could have different issues when it comes to latching and just, you know, there's so many factors that when you're first trying to get into the swing of breastfeeding with that new baby that can impact how your breastfeeding journey goes. So I just wish I kind of would have not had those like really, again, high expectations on myself of, oh, you're gonna know what to do. This is gonna be natural. You're doing the best thing for your baby by breastfeeding. And really it was putting so much stress on me, especially when I was working in an office and had to travel and I was, you know, carting my pump through security and my breast milk through security and just being given so many issues. And there was just almost so much stress that went along with that, of all the extra stuff to pack, all the extra time that I would have to budget to get to the airport and get through security and be able to find a place to pump, all those things that I wish, like looking back on it, I could have just told myself, like, it's okay if he has formula when you're not there. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world if you give him breast milk when you're around him and he has formula, you know, the remainder of the time. Like, I wish I hadn't been so hard on myself when it came to my breastfeeding journey. I'm proud of what I did, but I know I was under so much stress, and I just don't think it's worth it. Like, as a mom, I don't want you to be stressed. I want you to enjoy it as much as possible. And that's what I think would go back and tell myself, is like, do your best, but it's okay if you have to supplement with formula too. It is not the end of the world. And I think it just goes for anybody, if like you've tried breastfeeding and it just didn't work for you, that's okay too. Or if you've elected not to breastfeed and just formula feed, that's okay too. I think it's just so important as us moms to be accepting of each other. And like, if your choice is to breastfeed, I'm going to cheer you on and be supportive of you, just the same as if you're going to elect to use formula because you know that it's going to be really stressful on you because of your job or your family situation. I'm also going to cheer you on and support you too. So yeah, I think the whole breastfeeding thing was just way harder than I think I ever expected it to be before I had kids. Next thing I wish I had known more about before having kids is the mental load. So perhaps you've heard of this. I don't think it's necessarily just from having kids, but a lot of times it's being married and in a oftentimes like heterosexual relationship where a lot of the domestic work and tasks and household chores fall on the woman in the relationship. Now again, I know there's an exception to all of this, but I can just tell you from people in my family, my friend circles, it is commonly discussed that when they got married, they were taking on suddenly way more than even when they were living single around the house. And just feeling then that extra mental burden, like that's what the mental load is, of all of the things that you need to be keeping track of what needs to be bought from the grocery store, what there is to do around the house, what you need to be prepared in advance for a certain event. And when you have a baby, that can then also really fall on you. Even if things were like pretty well 50-50 split prior to having the baby in households, I still hear then women who are like, everything was great, and then we had the baby, and then because I was the one doing a lot of the care for the baby, because I was the one breastfeeding and staying up all night, that then I was thinking of the things that the baby needed, or the laundry that I needed to do, or how I needed to pump for, you know, the time that I did plan on going out of the house. There's just so much more mental load when you have a child of things that you're thinking of that they're going to need, or that you need to help take care of them, and then just overall what your family needs, that it can be really, really stressful and very, very draining and so exhausting. And again, that's where you can have those periods where you just feel so alone, or you feel unappreciated, or that people like don't understand why it is that you're sad or stressed out or discouraged. So if you're going through that, or if you've gone through that, again, like, you are not alone in those feelings, but I think it is so important then to have those conversations with your partner, and not even just your partner, but kind of your village, who's going to be helping you take care of the baby and raise the baby, of just the stuff that you might need help with as you're adjusting, or like once you're in it, if you're really realizing that like the laundry is just too much. Like, I need a family member to come over and just help with that for a little bit until I can like feel a little more well rested and all of that. So the mental load was something I didn't have the words for when I was a new mom, but now I've seen so much just around it, and I think it's so important to have those conversations with your partner and other people in your support network. Seventh thing I did not know before I had kids was what sleep deprivation was actually going to feel like. I think there was definitely times in my life, like up all night studying for college exams, where I was like, oh, I'll be able to handle this. Or, you know, you stay up late with your friends when you're a teenager or in your 20s. I know like in high school, I did crazy stuff. Like, I would stay up with my friends until like 2 a.m. at a sleepover, and then wake up at 4:30 in the morning to open Panera Bread at 5 a.m. and like work an 8 or 9 hour shift. And I was fine. Looking back on it, I'm like, there's just a different level of energy I think you have when you're a teenager and when you're that age, and when you're having fun with your friends and doing things that you love. And like, you think, I don't know, in your head, you're like, it's just a phase. Like, I feel like you get told it a lot, like, it's just a phase, you're gonna be able to get through it. But after having 3 babies, and finally by the 3rd one, there was a point in time where we were in the pediatrician's office. Like, I remember this so vividly. And the doctor looked at my husband at the time and was just like, Dad, you need to take over. Like, she physically cannot do this anymore. Like, everything that I'd been like doing as far as breastfeeding and then staying up most of the night with the baby, because at that time there was like sleep regressions, I think, happening with some like throat spurt and teething stuff that was happening. And it was just like all night crying. And like, that's it just too. It's not even that you're just awake. It's like, if you have a baby that is just crying and everything you're doing to try to soothe them isn't working, you are just so, like, I could almost cry right now, like thinking back to that time. Like, it is just so exhausting and you are so mentally fried, and it is a lot, and you really, really, really need help. So if you're going through any kind of sleep deprivation, I know it's like cost is always, I feel like, what keeps us sometimes from getting the help we need. But a night nurse is an option, even if it's just a temporary thing. A lot of the times, because they're so well versed in helping other babies with this. Like, I had one girlfriend who only used them for a week because that's all she needed. She just needed that like week to get her through that hump and sort of figure out what's going on with the baby. And they were able to figure it out so that they could get more sleep. Maybe it's a family member just saying, hey, please, I need you for like this night this week, calling somebody else, like another girlfriend, to come over the next night. And I know it can be really hard asking for that help, but when you are going through that sleep deprivation, it can just then, I feel like, ripple out to cause so many other problems in your relationship with your partner, and then how you're taking care of your other kids if you have them, and how your performance is at work if you are, you know, back at work. And it can be so hard when you're in it. And I feel like that's one of the most important things to get that help for, so that you're getting some rest and can like get your brain reset back to normal. 8th thing that I wish I'd known before having kids, that so many of you have said this to me over the years too, but it's comparison is the thief of joy. You know, I know we live in this culture where, you know, here you are watching my YouTube videos about motherhood, and that's what I did when I was pregnant. I watched all these other people's pregnancies and followed all these other moms on Instagram. And I feel like that, especially on stories, like you kind of see people's everyday lives showcased, right? And I know I'm guilty of this. Like, I rarely have my camera or my phone pulled out for like the really hard in the moment moments. Like, yes, I think I've been like really raw and real and sat down with you guys and talked about like really hard stuff that I've gone through over the years. But it's pretty rare that I have like the camera out and something organically happens. Like, you don't see when I've like had a breakdown in my closet or in the bathroom, or other moms like aren't really posting that kind of stuff. And so I think we just see all these happy, carefree childhood moments that all of us as moms want to capture of our kids, right? And share those because they're pure bliss. Like, that's one of the joys of this whole journey. But if that's all you're seeing, and then you're comparing that to your day-to-day where there is crying and meltdowns and exhaustion and messes, it can feel like I'm doing something wrong, or I don't know. I just, there's so many, you know, things that can trigger. And so what I would say is, you know, take the breaks, whether it's from social media or from who you're following. If things don't feel good, I mean, I've been like the first one to say that if, you know, I'm doing something that's making you upset or triggering something in you, unsubscribe, take the break, unfollow, don't watch anymore, because that's never my intention. Like, I'm truly just here because I want to share things and connect to other women, and like, that's what this video is all about. And that's what I hope, you know, happens in the comments of this video, is everybody's advice and questions and a feeling of community and support. So sometimes I know when you are in the trenches and it feels like everything is going wrong in your house that day, and then you know, open up your phone for some connection and you see like the picture perfect dinner and pristine house and the kids dressed perfectly, you can just feel like I'm not measuring up, or I'm not good enough. And that's just not true. You are absolutely good enough, and everything that you're doing for your babies and your family, and the fact that you're even like having that thought means that you love and care about them so much. So just know that, that you're doing a really, really good job, and there's nobody else you should compare yourself to other than just yourself and what's going to make you happy as a mom and what you want out of your motherhood journey. That's the only thing I would say to you is if you feel like you're not doing the things that would make you happiest as a mom, or you're doing things because you see Betty Lou down the street doing them and you think you have to, but like you have no enjoyment in doing them, like stop. Like let Betty Lou have fun and like you go do the things that are fun for you and fun for your kids, because at the end of the day, all your kids want is to have the happiest mom possible. And that's going to be totally different for you than what it is for me, than what it is from Betty Lou. So do what makes you happy. Don't compare yourself to any other mom. 9th thing I did not realize before having kids was how alone I might feel. Like even if I'm surrounded by my 3 babies, right? Like you kind of think like, oh, I have these like little people that I'm gonna be with all of the time. It's completely different than that adult interaction. And you know, I said after my first baby, I did go back to an office. With my second baby, I was actually working remotely, so I still had adult interaction virtually. It's interesting, it was like before COVID, like we Zoomed all of the time, so I was actually very familiar with Zoom even before COVID working world. And that was nice, but there was just something different about going to an office and having adult interaction and being able to go to lunch with coworkers and have that socialization. And then I feel like, you know, I was pregnant during COVID and was completely scared out of seeing anybody. Like was told by the OB that I was going to lose the baby potentially if I got COVID. And so I was just doing like everything I could to keep myself basically isolated so that I didn't get COVID. And I think what that did in turn was like really cut me off from that social experience that I really need and really crave. I'm definitely an extrovert. I think I get a lot of energy from being around other people and having face-to-face conversations. I think that's why I loved being a teacher. I think that's why I loved being a recruiter and just getting to talk and interact and be face-to-face with people. So I think this 3rd time around, I felt so alone in so many ways in the pregnancy and postpartum. And even though I was like around my kiddos a lot, it just was very different than having that adult interaction. So I know there's a lot of stay-at-home moms or work from home moms who, you know, watch my videos. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would just say is if you are feeling down or feeling like something's missing, it would be finding those opportunities where it's, you know, meeting other moms at a park or, you know, a thing where you're taking your kids to, whether it's library story time or whatever activities in your area you do. I know like in Hawaii, it was great. There would always be like mom meetups at like the beach kind of a thing, but just having the ability to sit and talk to other adults, I feel like just saves your sanity and saves you from feeling alone in your motherhood journey. 10th thing I did not realize before having kids, your budget is going to change a lot. I, you know, had my kids and then started realizing I had so many things I wanted to do with them and just experience life with them. I'm huge on travel. If you followed for a long time, I feel like that's when I'm in my element as a mom, or like when I'm my very best as a mom is when I'm traveling with my kids, exploring the world together, just having that adventure with them. I think it's so much fun. I just don't think I even realized how much all of the baby gear that you need, and then the clothes, and then, you know, the medical bills and the extracurricular activities, and then the school supplies. And there's just so much that as you're raising your kids are like, whoa, these are things I didn't even think about that I was going to need to budget for. 11th thing I wish I knew before having kids was how important it is for you and your partner to get aligned on housework. This kind of, again, ties into that mental load that I mentioned earlier. This is something though that if I could go back and tell early 20-year-old me, like 23-year-old me, it would be like, do not enter any kind of a long-term relationship before you've aligned on what is fair as far as work around the house goes. Especially then when you bring a child into it, because if you're not aligned on those things, it can be so hard to break those habits or have those conversations and shift things. And if you have them up front, it is just so much easier to sort of go from there. So I do feel like pregnancy is a good time to maybe like pause and have that conversation if you aren't having it right now, to kind of do a little reset so that before the baby comes, then all that extra work that you're going to be, you know, responsible for with the baby is then balanced by other things around your home. And then 12 kind of goes along with that, but you're going to need help. And I think for so many people, me in particular, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out myself. I can do this, like independent. I've just always been that way. Like even I was probably that person in like the group projects in school that if like other people weren't pulling their weight, I was just like, I need to get the A, so I'm just going to take care of this. Like that was me. Like I would take it on all myself, even if it was incredibly stressful. And with a baby, even if you're that way, please, like please just realize asking for help is okay. It's going to be so much better for your baby. And like that's what you have to like start, I think, like change your mentality of like, even if it's not something you're used to or accustomed to, you've got to do what's best for your baby. And it is so much better if you're asking for help. So truly, people are going to probably offer help. And don't be one of those people to push it off. Like if somebody's like, oh, can I bring dinner? Be like, yes, you can bring dinner. If they're like, oh, do you need help with laundry? Be like, yes, can you go do the laundry? Like just say yes to any of the help that's offered, even if it isn't done necessarily the way that you want it to be done. Just like let other people help. I remember I read, I think it was Kate Plus 8's book, and she talked about this, of how she's like, I was such a control freak. Like I had all these like things that if anybody came to help with the babies, I had all of this stuff. But like at the end of the day, it's like there was no way possible that she could have taken care of 6 little babies at the same time. And you just have to accept, even if you're just having one baby, okay? There's no way that you can do it all. So just accept that help. And I think it's what we forget about too, is that we actually get so much satisfaction out of helping other people. I think just sometimes not everybody thinks exactly like, oh, this is what they're going to need right now in that moment. Even though we've all gone through these phases, I promise you, like week to week of a baby and week to week of pregnancy, everything changes so quickly that sometimes you just need to be like, I'm going through this week. Can you please help me with this? And then people will remember like, oh yeah, I remember my little one went through that too. I'm coming over to help. 13 on my list is most women do not bounce back after having a baby. And I think this is something that the media has sort of brainwashed us into thinking is what everybody does or should do. Like 6 weeks later, you'd see like the celebrity on the cover of a magazine in a bikini again. And I think there's some women who naturally that's just how their body is. I think there's a lot of other women though who 6 weeks after having a baby, when you're still like bleeding postpartum and breastfeeding, like the last thing you're doing is putting on a bikini. So just know if you're feeling any sort of pressure of, I need to start working out again, or I should be losing weight, or my tummy should go back to being flat after just a couple of days. Like, no, it took 9 months for your body to create that baby. And it's going to take at least those 9 months, if not longer, because then if you're breastfeeding too, like your body just has different needs when it comes to its fat supply to be producing milk for your baby. So a lot of women will say like it doesn't really happen, or they can't lose any weight until they actually wean or like, stop breastfeeding. So just don't have that pressure on yourself that your body should look a certain way, or that you should be able to fit in certain clothes again, or that you should be able to wear certain clothes from before you had the baby. It's a different journey for every single woman. And quite honestly, for me, like having 3, I feel like my body was very different after each baby. Like it just was different every single time, as far as how fast I lost the weight, or if I even lost the weight, kind of a thing, because of breastfeeding. Like everything was just very different for each kid. So just don't have that pressure on yourself that you need to like bounce back or look any certain way in a certain amount of time. 14, kind of along this vein, because it's just about embracing your body and all of these beautiful changes and phases that you're going through, is to take maternity pictures. I think my biggest regret with my first 2 pregnancies is I didn't take maternity pictures. And I'm so grateful, like my very dear friend Molly took them when I was pregnant with Hayden. And they're honestly, like somebody asked me one time on a Q&A, like what's your favorite picture of yourself? And it's those maternity like shoot pictures. Like I've never felt more beautiful or just happy with my body, and so proud of what my body was able to do. And it was just so empowering, I feel like, to have that photo shoot and then see the pictures and just feel like, wow, that was such an amazing moment of time that, you know, it's so fleeting. Like your belly is even only that big, you know, when you take them in your 3rd trimester, like for 3 months of your entire life is when your body, you know, can look that way. So I don't know, taking the maternity pictures is just something that, like, I know from a budget perspective might seem like a lot, but I do feel like I'm just so grateful that I did it. So I feel like I tell every person before they have kids, like, save for the maternity pictures, like take the maternity pictures. It's just so special. 15, this is all again sort of like embracing this body changes that you go through, but it is wear tighter fitting clothes that showcase the bump. I think that was one of the things that I realized in my first pregnancy. Like I was buying looser clothes because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna buy tops in like a bigger size, but then maybe when I don't have a bump, like I can just wear like oversized kind of stuff for a while. And it made me feel so less like sexy and feminine and womanly. I actually like then realized when I was wearing just like things that were tighter fitting on my bump, not uncomfortably tight, but you know what I mean? Like showcasing the bump and then still like flattering on like my arms and everything like that. I felt so much more pretty and feminine and confident in the day-to-day stuff. So I would definitely say wear clothes that embrace your bump, and yeah, just enjoy those months where your body is going through this like really, really beautiful phase. I love when I see other people on Instagram or YouTube just rocking their bump and wearing these like really cute tight outfits. I'm always like, yes, go. I think that was my biggest disappointment with the Super Bowl even. I was like texting all my girlfriends when it was going on. I was like, I just wish that Rihanna like showcased her bump, because it was like so empowering that here she is pregnant doing this incredible performance. I was like, I just wish she'd had that bump like out there showcased for all of us to be like, heck yes. Like it just, I feel like it would have upped the ante. It was still a great performance, but I wish like that the bump wasn't hidden by baggy clothes. Like I wish it was actually like really featured. But again, that's just my opinion. But I do think it just makes you feel more confident, and everybody loves, like you'll get so many compliments on your cute pregnant bump. I promise you. Like it is just something that so many women, I feel like, just feel that excitement for you of, wow, your body's going through this like most beautiful thing right now. So show off the bump. All right, 16 is just because your parents or your in-laws or your friends or anybody tells you, I did this with my kids, does not mean that you have to do that for your kids. Like your baby is its own unique human and personality, and things that worked for even you as their parent might not work for them. They might need something completely different. So don't ever feel pressure that you have to do something because somebody in your family has, or because your best friend has, or because a mom that you're seeing on YouTube or Instagram is doing something. Do what works for you, do what makes you happy and your baby happy. All right, 17, this is the last thing on my list for you today, is that it's okay to not like parts of motherhood. It's okay to cry, it's okay to feel discouraged, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel like this is not what I signed up for. I think we've all had those days where it is just not meeting what we had in our head, whether it's our vision, our expectations, or what we think motherhood should be like, and that's okay. So many people, I feel like, have said this to me of, there are phases, there are things you're going to like more. And I think that's like the thing of every phase, that even though there's things that are hard, if you can focus on the things in that phase that you really do enjoy or like, it's going to make it way more enjoyable to get through it. But then you're gonna look back and like, as hard as that sleep deprivation was, I can look back and be like, gosh, I just miss when, you know, Hayden was on me in that little sling and I did my cleaning around the house and I could like smell his hair, and I miss that. And then, you know, they get older and they're talking so much, and I remember it was such a challenge. I was like very open about one of my kiddos who I was taking to speech therapy, and that was so hard. Like, I don't know, it was just a struggle, and there was like moments in there where even though our therapist was amazing and so helpful, I could just like sense the frustration. And now listening to their voice, I'm like, I still though just miss that little toddler, sweet little voice, you know, that said words in such a cute little way. And see, this is what happens. You miss the hard parts. Like, there's, even beauty and sweetness and all the hard parts of motherhood. But all in all, I hope you do know that you are not alone and you have a mama friend here on YouTube that's rooting for you and cheering for you just to be the happiest mom that you can be. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and sending you so much love. And don't forget, I have Fit Right Fresh Start linked down in my description box below. Use that link so you get 20% off. And thanks again to Fit Right Fresh Start for sponsoring today's video.